Hey friend, are you stuck in your groove making abilities where you can't get your right hand to deviate from the standard straight 8 timekeeping that it's always done? I know the feeling. You want to break away, you want to be creative and syncopated, but your right hand just won't do it, which leaves you bored and frustrated with your inability to really be creative and come up with something cool. I felt the same way early on until I discovered a really cool trick that actually makes this all a lot easier. Here's the deal. Most drummers assume that playing syncopated patterns on the ride during a groove is an advanced skill, but you can actually teach your right hand to improvise rhythms even as a beginner, and this is a super achievable skill that you can get started on today. We're breaking down in 4 steps how to use alternating singles to automatically create syncopated rhythms on the ride, maybe without you even realizing it. Then we'll learn how to coordinate that with your other limbs so that you can build ride syncopation into your groove. After today, you'll be branching out of the box, creating cool patterns, and you'll be able to actually play the non-8th timekeeping patterns that you hear in songs from time to time. You can do this. This is going to be a lot of fun. Hey, welcome to The Non-Glamorous Drummer. I'm so glad you're hanging out today. I help self-taught beginner drummers know what to practice so that you can nail songs, have fun on the drums, and be the drummer that other people want to jam with and want to have in their band. But hey, a big roadblock that's probably standing in your way, especially if you're a beginner, especially if you're self-taught. I know this was where I was when I was self-taught for 2 years. You struggle to play the ideas in your head, and maybe as you're playing along, there's hiccups, freeze-ups, train wrecks where things just fall apart, and it's like, well, I was going to play that, but that just didn't come across, and so you can't play what you hear in your head, and it takes a long time to learn new stuff, and then you learn something new, then you forget it, and learning new parts takes forever. Everything is difficult on the drums when you don't have 4-way coordination. Those are all symptoms of a lack of 4-way coordination. But with 4-way coordination, you can pretty much do anything. It's like a superpower on the drums. If you can coordinate all of your limbs, they can all communicate with your brain. That means you can play what you hear in your head. It means you can learn new stuff faster. Everything is easier. You have a bigger mental CPU, a higher ceiling, so you can think about more stuff and play more musically. All awesome things, so I want to help you do that, especially if you're a beginner. So I want you to grab my free PDF guide in the description. It is my 30 days to 4-way rock coordination for the beginner drummer PDF guide. What this does is it walks you through a groove a day. And by the way, it's okay if you spend more than 1 day on each groove. No hurry, no rush. You don't have to get through it in a month. But a groove a day, and each day challenges you in a new way with layering and coordination. And what I often hear from students who have gone through this is that once you get to like day 10, 12, especially 15, that's where you start seeing the big results. So you don't even have to get all the way through it to see some results. So I want to help you play what you hear in your head, build some coordination, grab that PDF guide. It's in the description, totally free. That's really going to be your companion to today's lesson because that's essentially what we're talking about. We're talking about coordination here. If we want to get to where we can go if we want to get to where we're playing like randomness with the right hand, and then we're able to shake up the other things we do and move that right hand around, it all takes coordination. And so today I'm going to give you some beginner building blocks just to get going with this, and it's going to be a lot of fun. But be working through that PDF guide too, because that's going to help you out a bunch in other ways as you begin tying in your left foot, and of course working the left hand and other elements of coordination as well. But here we go. Step number 1, starting off really simple here. Actually, before we get into step 1, we kind of have to define syncopation. So we had in the title, play syncopated patterns with the right hand. And the big idea here is the struggle of I'm stuck playing the same normal timekeeping up here. And maybe I can do quarters. Even that might feel a little weird. 16ths if I'm going really slow. You know, maybe I can do those things, but what I definitely can't do is and so that's what we want to get to. We want to be able to play grooves like that. Those are the kinds of patterns we hear all the time in songs. Eric Clapton, Wonderful Tonight. There's a pattern kind of like that. And so what if we could play And so what if we could shake things up and play different sorts of patterns there that aren't totally straight? That's what we're getting into today. And really our definition of syncopation is playing anything that's not normally placed where it would be placed. So if we were to move a note into a, an offbeat, an E or an if we were to play 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and, that would be very straight and normal. But if we went 1 E and 2 E and played on those offbeats, that would be syncopated because we're shifting things over. We're putting it on a weird part of the beat we might not normally play. Another definition of syncopation might be putting a rest, putting a space where normally there would be a note, which is also what happens when we're playing on offbeats. So that's our definition. That's the kind of thing we want to do. We want to play with syncopation. And here's what's so cool. Just in step 1 right here, if you play left-hand lead singles on your snare, so left-hand lead, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. That alone might feel weird if you're right-handed, but give it a try, and then move your right hand to the right so that it sounds like this. By definition, we're now playing something syncopated on the ride with the right hand because it's now on the offbeats. Our beat, our upbeat, or our downbeats, so to speak. Our downbeats are happening here on the snare. Our upbeats are happening over here. 1 E and 2 E and So our main straight rhythm is now happening with the left hand, and we're making the right hand play on the offbeats. So we're basically switching everything up and upside down already because normally we're used to playing straight beats with the right hand and maybe doing some offbeat ghosting down here, kind of like. A lot of times even the weak hand gets pretty comfortable early on playing on the offbeats because all you're essentially doing in a ghosting pattern like that is playing a right, left, right, both, right, left, right, left, right. It's just a lot of right, left, right, which feels very natural if we practice our singles as every beginner and intermediate and even advanced drummer should every day. Singles are a great core thing to always be refining. But a lot of times what we don't practice are left-hand lead singles. So if you make yourself flip it upside down, now suddenly we can trade places here and have left hand play beats, right hand play off beats. That's our step 1 to getting syncopated here. So now what we want to do is take this a step further and create interesting rhythms kind of automatically over here on the ride by occasionally switching the lead hand of our singles. So let's say we start with right, left, right, left, right, left, but then we suddenly switch to left, right, left, right. That means at some point there's going to be 2 lefts in a row or 2 rights in a row. So we might do something like this. So that was right, left, right, left, right, left, left, right. Let me see if I can say it right. Right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, right, left, right, left. So switching it every couple beats. Practice doing that. Then make the left hand a little softer, right hand a little louder. See if you can start going quicker and listen and hear, hey, what kind of melody, what kind of rhythm have I now accidentally automatically created with my right hand here? That sounds pretty cool, but we can continue switching up, when we're changing from right hand lead to left hand lead. We could go. There's a lot of weird things you can start doing here. It doesn't even have to be that complex. It could be. So right, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left, right, switching every beat. So 4 right, lefts, 4 notes, and then 4 that are left hand lead, 4 that are right hand lead, doing it like that. So left, right, right, left. I'm doing my best here. Right, left, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. Try that. It starts to get really interesting as you can get faster, as you learn these patterns, as you memorize these patterns. And if you watch my videos every week, if you stick with me every week and you watch my lessons every week, you might remember the one a few weeks ago about improvisation. We talked about creating, basically listening for rhythms in an accent pattern and saying like, okay, what if we go creating these accent patterns with sixteenths, with alternating sixteenths, just with singles, listening to those accent patterns and pulling the melodies out. That's kind of what we're doing here, and that's a great lesson to go check out after you finish today. Go check out that one on improvisation, because that's essentially what we're getting into here. We're teaching our right hand to start improvising melodies, to start creating, hearing, and improvising melodies, which is a huge part of coordination. Coordination is a part of that, and improvisation is a big result and kind of like a follow-up skill to coordination. So let's say we've created some rhythms here. Let's go with the one that we just did. Bum, 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 and see if you can get that rhythm in your head. That is our step 3 here. Get the rhythm in your head. See if you can just hear that in your head. Boom, 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 bum, bum. There's a lot of different ways you can learn stuff, and really one of the best ways on the drums is to play it back in your head. Like memorize, be able to hear it, play it over and over again in your head and memorize it. Bum, bum, doom, doom, doom. See if you can still hear that without even thinking about the sticking you were doing. You've now been listening and you're paying attention to melody. You're starting to think in rhythms, which is what we talked about in the improvisation lesson. Bum, 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 bum. I'm going to keep time for you on the hats. You don't have to do it. If we were to count this out, it might go 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E, a 1 and E, a 1 and E. However you want to count it, we could call this a 2-beat thing or a 4-beat, whatever. Bum, 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 bum. So now that you've got that in your head, see if you can play that with quarter notes on the kick. So go really slow and go. So remember, the first half is easy because it's just, that's it. But then the second half is where it's like this alternating. It's almost like we're doing this between kick and right hand, which is a little bit weird at first, but it's worth practicing just that half a couple times. Jump, jump, back to the beginning. Boom, jump, jump, beginning. And at that point, you pretty much have the whole thing. Now, see if you can add in a snare backbeat on 2 and 4. We're basically building a 4 on the floor groove built of quarter notes on the kick. So now we want to add in the snare. I'll go a little bit slower. So 2 big reasons I had you go through the singles thing at the beginning. One was because that kind of helps you just automatically play interesting stuff. Using different sticking patterns on the drum set is a great way to extract cool melodies and just create cool melodies kind of on the fly and automatically. And so that's cool, and that's an easy thing to do as a beginner. But it's also very practical because now, as we're adding in the backbeat, we're kind of feeling this left, right, this left-hand lead kind of tension here. And that's why this is difficult even if you've been playing for years and you're just so used to, you know, standard right-hand lead stuff. As soon as you're playing the right hand on the offbeats, in your brain, it's like, wait a second, that feels wrong because right hand's just not used to being on the offbeats. And if we go, that's basically left-hand lead singles, just without all the left-hand notes. And so if you take that first step earlier of sitting here and practicing and go the next step here of which feels really weird, that's going to help you out a lot with that, with being able to just play like as a simple exercise here. Something else you can do is playing all of the right hand notes on E's and U's. And so that's something there that you can do where you're essentially playing left-hand lead singles, moving the left hand around the drum set while you're keeping the quarter notes going there, and right hand is learning to play on offbeats, which is super weird, but that'll help you a whole bunch. Now, what's cool about this, so we've just done one rhythm here, and we've kept this very simple, but as always, I want to give you something to take and run with. If you're a beginner, then what we've covered here is great so far. You can work on that, it's going to help you out a bunch. But maybe you come back to this in a couple months, or maybe you're a more advanced player. There's a lot more you can do with this. So a couple of bonus things. This whole ability of freeing up your right hand and not just play on beats gives you a lot of other creative options in your playing, not just with the ride. For instance, you can move your right hand to tom. So let's say we're grooving along. So those are some like kind of caveman type examples, just very obvious in your face, dun, 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 like that. But it could also be a little bit more subtle if we're playing something like. And so on, into all sorts of randomness. And so suddenly your right hand is able to do a lot of different stuff that maybe it couldn't normally do. And also you could use various hand stickings over a kick drum pattern to create really syncopated, funky stuff. I'll show you what I mean. Something that was tremendously beneficial to my coordination growth, sort of once I got to a more advanced stage in my playing, I had all the basic coordination. I could even play some jazz stuff. Like I could go. And so I'd practice all that kind of stuff, but it was like, okay, what's next? And I'd heard about, doing feet paradiddles and doing paradiddles over the feet and those sorts of things, kind of inspired by a lot of what Alan Dawson, legendary teacher, would teach a lot of his students. And I'd heard people talk about the Alan Dawson method. So one of the things that I would practice a lot was doing paradiddles over quarter notes with my feet, just like this. So taking that concept here, of course we can do all sorts of different stickings. You could go down the first page of Stick Control by George Lawrence Stone if you have that book. You could do paradiddles, you could do inverted paradiddles, which would be right, left, right, right, left, and all sorts of different ways. So that essentially you could kind of get into this realm of getting into kind of the randomness territory, which then gives you a lot of that ability to kind of play weird random stuff. So let's say we're playing along. That sort of thing kind of came up in those examples a few minutes ago, where really all I'm doing, I'm not really thinking, let's just do a right hand thing of. Because then I'd probably use left hand too. But instead I could say, all right, I'm gonna have my left hand stay on the snare and ghost the in-between notes here and go. So it actually becomes like kind of a funny sticking sort of thing. I think that's what it was. So that's just a random example of something you might come up with. All sorts of random nonsense, but you can get into that kind of just experimental creativity of seeing what can I end up coming up with if I can play different stuff with my right hand. And so a great way to practice that is doing different stickings with your hands over the feet. And that was all just paradiddle based, and from there you can start creating different patterns. You can just experiment like that. No rules, no metronome, just sitting here and going like, okay, what can I come up with here? And it completely frees you from having to always play alternating singles in everything you do. So this could be a whole bunch of fun. There's just so much you can do with this. So obviously start with the beginner steps if that's where you're at, and then know that there's a lot more you can do with this. You can really get experimental and do all sorts of crazy stuff. And so hopefully you had fun watching me just make up random stuff. Some of it sounded okay, some of it sounded pretty bad. That's the whole point of this. And I want to also be a demonstration to you of how this might work as you're experimenting, where you're going to come up with some stuff where it's like, that was not great. That was kind of sloppy and weird. Or, hey, that was swampy, but maybe a little too swampy. But the whole point here is just get creative with it. None of it needs to be perfect in the beginning. Just see what you can start creating, see what can happen, and grab onto that and chase after it and see, how can I be more creative? How can I get better at this? What other ideas can I pursue based off of this one? There's so much you can do. So not really too many rules here. There's definitely no limits, and we don't want to be perfectionists. We want to be okay with mistakes, because there really aren't any mistakes, only new parts and new creative things that happen, which is a big thing that we talk about in that improvisation training a few weeks ago. So if you missed that, I'll link it in the description so you can go check that out. But my hope is that this will all just give you the ability to branch out and play something cool, not feel like you're playing the same boring stuff over and over again. You'll be able to play what you want and get better at playing the ideas you hear in your head, because that's what you're specifically learning to execute here. And you'll be able to play other timekeeping patterns, like back to the Eric Clapton Wonderful Tonight thing. Let's say you're learning that song and you just want to be able to go. That's a non-straight 8th or 16th pattern, and so that can be a little bit weird if you've never done that before, because you have to focus more on that right hand. And so that's something that'll be much more within your reach at this point. So, hey, before you go, tell me in the comments, what other questions do you have about ride timekeeping? Or this could be hi-hat timekeeping too. Any kind of right hand timekeeping, or if you're a lefty, whichever your timekeeping hand is. What other questions about timekeeping patterns, syncopation, coordination, whatever along those lines do you have? Leave a comment below or shoot me an email. And I'm doing my best to go through and read through all the comments, and a lot of times I'll copy and paste stuff where it's like, that's a really good question, it's a good idea. And so I copy and paste it over to my notes where I've got all of my lesson ideas. And so I will do my best to answer whatever questions you've got as like a follow-up lesson to this. So I want to help you out, provide you with as much value as possible. And hey, also be sure to grab that 30 days to 4-way rock coordination guide. That's going to help you out a whole lot, especially if you're new. That way you're able to start playing the stuff you hear in your head, and that'll be a really good companion to today's lesson. As always, know that you can do this. Stay non-glamorous. I'll see you on the next lesson.